Let's talk about Google Analytics from a strategic and marketing technology perspective. It's been almost a year since GA4 was introduced, and today you have two very loud voices on the internet. You have the enthusiasts, but also you have a growing group of people that are expressing dissatisfaction and frustration about the GA4 experience. So today, let's talk about GA4, what it is not, and some of the points that may be behind these frustrations and complaints. Let's start with Google Analytics 4 and defining what it is and also what it is not. The truth is that GA4 is unlike any upgrade Google Analytics has introduced since it first was released in 2005. And the wording around GA4 may be one of the main reasons why there's so much frustration. You may have heard a lot of GA4 upgrade, or in fact, the Google admin panel had upgrade to GA4. And the truth is, GA4 is not an upgrade. It's a completely different tool. Now, it is confusing because of the wording, and also Google Analytics has been a little pushy. If you see the admin panel, not only do you have that wording, which, by the way, was replaced. It doesn't say upgrade, it says set up GA4 right now. But you also, if you create a new property, you default to GA4, so it feels like a continuation of what we all know and love, the Google Analytics Universal. If you treat it as a different tool, then you have a different conversation. You have different questions, and asking these questions might help prepare you for what you need to do in order to get the best out of Google Analytics 4. Now for this, I want to bring up an article that was published on this edition of Harvard Business Review. And I wanted to bring this particular article because it does a fantastic job at framing the conversation that should be happening before you adopt a new technology, or GA4 in this case. Remember, GA4, new technology, the clearest sign of this is that you cannot migrate your Google Analytics history, your data, into GA4. You're starting from scratch. So this article talks about a few things, but there's two main concepts that I want to focus on. First, they highlight shiny new object syndrome, which GA4 by all means is. And they also talk about bottoms-up versus top-down approach to decision making. Now, GA4 fits the description of new shiny object. It's interesting. It has new reports, integration for BigQuery. And it might be tempting to jumping into GA4 to take advantages of these features. But that would be a bottoms-up approach, which is conducive to having problems along the way. What you want to do is make sure that you understand your business objectives and then go top-down to make sure that you have the technology that best drives these objectives. So right now, before going into GA4, may be a good time to revisit your business objectives and seriously evaluate if Google Analytics is the best tool to drive these objectives. Now, of course, full disclosure, Ayu Dante is a Google partner, and we sincerely believe that Google Analytics 4 is a fantastic tool and is very well positioned to create value for those that make sense. But we are also not delusional that Google Analytics 4 is a tool that solves every problem for every business. So take your time to evaluate Google Analytics 4 and make sure that it is a tool that it is going to address your business. So why would Google put aside Google Analytics, a tool that has 15 years of improvements, millions of happy customers, and is really a fantastic tool? Why would they put it aside and start something from scratch? A move that naturally will create some resistance and will create all these conversations that you see online of people having a little bit of frustration in the initial stages. Well, let me show you this graph from Chief Martech. You might have seen it around. And this is the marketing technologies landscape super graphic. And the earliest one that I could find is from 2011. And you can see there's a lot of technologies out there. Well, let's jump forward to 2020. This is how it looks. So you can imagine that since Google Analytics was first introduced in 2005, the landscape overall has changed quite dramatically. And while Google Analytics has been improved over the years, it's still based on the same model and the same core, same engine basically, that it was first introduced. In fact, if you use the same code of Google Analytics from 2005, it will still work. You'll still see data. And while very successful, this model has become a little bit outdated. And many of the technologies that you see on that graph have a different data model. And in particular, I'm referring to an event-based data model. And this is a foundation. This is the foundation for growth beyond the nice corner that Google Analytics has painted itself in. Because integrating with many of these technologies is much easier using an event-based model, and it's objectively simpler. You'll need some time to get used to having event-based reporting, but it simplifies things not only for other technologies to consume it, but machine learning and the reports just makes it easier overall. So having in mind that Google Analytics 4 is a new technology and it's best to approach new technologies from a top-bottom, having clear business objectives, let's talk about some of the features that are present in GA4 and that may help you inform if these features are in line with what you need with your business. So first, GA4 is going to be the foundation of the Google marketing platform. So if you use Google Ads, Google Optimize, Google Campaign Manager, Ads Hub, there's an array of tools in the Google ecosystem. Presumably, it's safe to say that Google Analytics 4 is going to be the foundation that brings all these technologies together and allows for actionable segments and a lot of actionable insights. If you have a mobile app, you know how challenging it can be to create a common measuring universe between your mobile app and your web users. Google Analytics 4 sets the foundation to create this universe. And don't get me wrong, you still can do it with Google Analytics Universal and whatever technologies you have, but what ends up happening is that you create this small sliver of common ground that you can analyze as your app plus web. In fact, GA4 was first introduced as app plus web, named probably a little too long. That's why they put it GA4. But that's one of the great values of GA4 is that it creates a single universe for both your app users and your mobile users. And one of the best features that is only available right now to Google Analytics 360, that is now available to everybody in GA4, is the integration with BigQuery. And that BigQuery basically is a database, a data warehouse hosted in the Google Cloud platform, and Google Analytics is able to export the raw data to BigQuery. Now, this is tremendous benefits across several areas. First, it allows your data science teams to dig into the data and leverage algorithms to understand insights, trends. It enables the integration with other tools that may not be seamlessly integrated with Google Analytics. Once this data is in your data warehouse, you can use it as you see fit. Last point I want to highlight is that having your data available in a data warehouse is likely going to be an important piece of your first-party strategy. I'm not going to go into details of how the industry is changing in that respect, but it is going to be something that you might want to dig into later. Finally, let's talk about some of the different business cases that might warrant different degrees of consideration to adopt GA4 as your main reporting tool. Let's say that you decide, yes, Google Analytics makes sense for X, Y reasons, and I should adopt it as my main reporting tool. So if you are like most people watching this video, and probably most people doing some digging on GA4 right now, if you're a web-only business, if you're doing web analytics only, you might want to give it some time for GA4 to develop a little bit more. Subjectively speaking, GA4 might not be ready for you. Google Analytics has had 15 years of improvements, and it is a fantastic tool. It's not going to go away anytime soon, so feel free to keep using it. Now, if you have a mobile app, on the other hand, then you might want to start considering GA4, or I should say Firebase Analytics. GA4 is basically Firebase Analytics for web. Doing so, making sure that you're familiar with Firebase Analytics might set you up for, when ready, have that seamless universe of analytics reporting between app and web. Consider doing this transition with a Google partner. Google partners are in the front lines. We hear the complaints and the pros and the cons from our clients even a lot of the times before Google does. So Google partners should be able to provide you some guidance to help avoid going into these pitfalls. And that is it for today. Feel free to leave comments below, and I'll see you next time.